Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Streamline. Today, we'll be talking about the top 5 mistakes people make when implementing HubSpot or setting up a new HubSpot account. Number one reason is not setting up your technical domain and DNS records. So, what does that mean? That when you host content on HubSpot, when you host landing pages, when you send up emails, HubSpot is actually sending that on your behalf. So, you need to give HubSpot permissions from your DNS and your records to say that, okay, this HubSpot IP is actually connected to my domain. If you do not do that, one of the big risks is that if you send emails from HubSpot, they won't land in people's inbox because Gmail or some other email client might flag them as spam or say that it's phishing, which means that somebody's pretending to be you to send out emails. So that's a big red flag. So please don't do that. And if you set up a landing page or if you host content, you want that to be on a branded domain. You don't want that to be on a default number, letter, HS domain kind of thing. The second thing is that when you set up HubSpot, you have to define your stages and your process. So a lot of times people will set up HubSpot, but they don't have defined how they define a lead, how they define an MQL, how they define an SQL, what kind of lead statuses are there. So if sales is already engaged with somebody, what is that lead status that comes from Salesforce or Outreach and flows in back into HubSpot? So making sure you have all that set up right, because if you don't, that's going to create problems down the line where you're reporting and anything else that you do in HubSpot won't make sense. And the third mistake that we see a lot of people make is having a lot of forms and landing pages without organizing it. So in HubSpot, you don't actually need to have a form for each asset. If they're all the same type of asset, for example, you're having a webinar and you have that webinar every month, you don't need to create a new form for each webinar that happens every month. What's that going to cause is it's going to create a lot of marketing debt in your system where you have 100 forms. They all kind of do the same thing. And if you want to change the field on one form or if you want to create a new workflow to trigger off a certain form, you have to account for all those 100 forms altogether. What we typically recommend is have one form for each type of content. So webinar has one form, demo, talk to sales has one form. If you have a trial, have a form for that. Each form maps to one unique type of content versus having one form for each content piece that you have. What that does is if you want to update form fields, if you want to set up new workflows, if you want to track people, instead of accounting for all the 100 forms and you might miss something, you have just one form that kind of defines the input into the system. The fourth mistake that we see people make is that they'll have a disorganized lead status, lead source kind of thing. And now HubSpot is very interesting because it actually tracks two touch points. One is the origin source, where somebody came from to your website, which was the first time HubSpot cookied them. And the second thing is the latest source, which is the last time that they converted on something. Now, these two touch points are out of the box with HubSpot. You don't have to do anything. If you do want to set up custom lead sources, make sure they're mapped to those so HubSpot and your custom lead sources make sense. Now, I will add a caveat there that if you are uploading a lot of trade show lists or offline lists, HubSpot has this big bucket of things it calls offline sources. It's very hard to segment the lead source based on something called offline source. So in that case, you might want to set up custom sources, but don't keep them more than 6 at max, because we have seen a lot of instances where people have 50, 20, 100 lead sources. Most of them are the same thing, but that creates a lot of duplication and confusion when I want to segment my database, when I want to report on which lead source is performing best. There's just no rhyme or reason to it. Now, the last thing that we have seen make people mistakes with HubSpot is that they don't leverage HubSpot's own landing pages, emails, or anything. Now, HubSpot is fantastic because it is an all-in-one platform. You can sync in your deals from Salesforce. You can sync in your sales emails from sales sequences. You can sync in your blog touchpoints from HubSpot hosted blog or landing pages and forms. If we have all that thing contained within the HubSpot ecosystem, HubSpot can generate a multi-touch aggregation report. HubSpot can generate all kinds of great reporting touch points people had within that ecosystem of assets you have. But for example, if you use a blog on WordPress, you don't sync in your deal data from Salesforce, then you don't have that end-to-end visibility in the HubSpot ecosystem. And then HubSpot is not able to track those touch points, and it makes it harder to have a comprehensive reporting structure. So that was all the top 5 mistakes. I'm sure there's more I can go into. If you want me to, I can make another video to go into more in depth in each of those. If you have any questions, please leave a comment or check us out at 42agency.com. Thank you for watching Streamline, and I'll catch you at the next video.